Today I want to do a review of The Five by Hallie Rubenhold. Just wanted to check I got that right. And sorry about my appearance, it's very, very hot today and I've not been well. Hopefully that won't differ too much from what I'm saying. Now, this is more of a review of the reviews about this. First off, let me say, I found this a hugely entertaining book, a very informative book. It's going to stay on my bookshelf forever. So what I'm about to say is personal opinion, and it's just what other reviewers said about it and why I object to that. And after I've gone into all that and you found me really critical and horrible, then I'll say why I really enjoyed the book and what I think the book actually is. I'm going to assume you've got a basic knowledge of Jack the Ripper. This book is about, it's not a crime book. It doesn't detail, you know, all about the murders and the investigations of the Jack the Ripper killings in 1888. All it does is it tells the stories of the canonical five, the five women who they reckon were definitely killed by Jack the Ripper. It tells their stories. It's not a crime book. It was released 2 years ago in 2018, and see, it's not that I've enjoyed the book, but it's not the book itself that has prompted me to do this review. It was the reviews of the book. One of the reviews said it, well, a few of the reviews said it was revolutionary. Is it revolutionary? I mean, yes, it does an extraordinarily good job of detailing these women's lives, giving these women a voice, these women who, you know, we knew nothing about before, other than the fact that he was killed by Jack the Ripper. But is that revolutionary? I mean, it's not. I mean, giving women throughout history that we didn't know much about or we'd forgot about a voice is something Philippa Gregory has been doing for years in her historical fiction. Even if it's just to say why Philippa Gregory's took liberties and this actually happened, it's got people. Gregory's fiction has got people talking about names in history that we knew nothing about or we'd forgot about, like Elizabeth Woodville, Anne Neville, Mary Boleyn, Jacquetta of Luxembourg. So in that sense, is it revolutionary? Also, the other thing they find revolutionary about it is the fact that Hallie Rubenhold seems to be hung up on the idea that these women were not prostitutes. There was no evidence of prostitutes. Now, a lot of ripperologists and historians have gone against this and said that she has only used certain quotes to back up her theory. She might be right, but when I read this, before I even knew that there'd been some opposition about it, I thought she was writing it with a modern day feminist agenda. She was like, I don't want to give too much away because you might want to read it yourself. One of the women was actually arrested for soliciting, and she says on the night she was killed, she may have been soliciting, but she wasn't a prostitute. And there was another woman didn't have the money before she was killed by Jack the Ripper. She didn't have the money for the doss house, and she said she was going to go out and get the money, and with her new pretty bonnet, and the doorman to the doss house assumed she meant prostitution, but she wasn't a prostitute. She must have gone to the pawn shop to pawn her bonnet. She wasn't a prostitute. And I kind of find that not offensive, but a problem, that she seems to think that being called a prostitute is the lowest form of life. Because prostitution, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think there were prostitutes. Prostitution was rife in Victorian London, absolutely rife. I mean, they even had children doing it, which they don't talk about a lot because it's not nice, but it was rife. That's the other reason they reckon it was revolutionary, because it exposes Victorian London for how it really was, and because everybody thinks Victorian London was all posh and prim. No, if you actually know about Victorian London, I mean, this is good for people who didn't know, to educate them, but it's not revolutionary in the sense that it exposes what Victorian London was really like, with the homelessness and the poverty and the really bad sanitation and the disease and the prostitution and stuff like that. That's well-known historical fact. She hasn't exposed anything. We know this already. So it's incredibly well researched. It's historic. It's got lots of historical things in it. It will teach you a lot, especially if you don't already know about that era. But this is not news. It's not revolutionary. She's done a really good job researching, but it's not revolutionary. Not in my book. The other thing, it doesn't expose anything in my book. I think that's her personal opinion, and that's conjecture about they weren't prostitutes. I don't think, you know, hundreds of years of history and evidence can be thrown away by one person saying there's not enough evidence that the prostitutes are not prostitutes. And I also don't think it's very good to be like, you know, that was the worst form of life, to be a prostitute. They weren't doing it for vice or money. They were doing it to stay alive. And the other thing that's been said about this book, which I do not agree with, is that the reason she wrote it was because, you know, the Jack the Ripper murders are glamorised. These women are debased and dehumanised, and the whole Jack the Ripper thing is very glamorised. Now, apart from the fact it's not their fault how they was murdered, so how does that dehumanise them? I understand the fact that we've never heard their personal tales before, and this book does that, and it's a very valuable book in that sense. But my husband's an amateur ripperologist. There's not a lot he doesn't know about the actual murders and investigation and the media storm behind it. He's no qualifications for that. He's very well researched in it, you know, and he was very excited for me to read this book because he wants to read it as well. He wants to know about the women, because as an amateur ripperologist, he didn't know anything about the women because the information just wasn't out there. So again, that's why this book is valuable. But nobody wants to be Jack the Ripper. Nobody wants to go around killing women and slaughtering women. That's not glamorised. People want to be Inspector Aberline. They want to break the mystery. That's the thing. It's not glamorising, going around ripping people's guts out and stuff. I object to that. I object to that. Yeah, it is written with a very modern day, what have you, these poor women. But I will say this: it does highlight the fact that these women were actually humans. They went through stuff. They were, you know, they had friends and family, and they're not just women that were you know, they aren't just their murder. They were actual people, and that makes it a very valuable book. So I did enjoy it. It is a good book, but it is not the revolutionary thing people making it out to be. But it is a good book. If she did do another book, I would probably buy it. It's not the book I've issue with, it's the other reviews I've issue with. Yeah, and there's some nice photos in it as well. There's some of the second victim, Annie Chapman, and stuff like that. So, excuse me. It has taught me about their lives, if you're interested in their lives. But the only objection I would have with the book is the fact that it doesn't detail their murders. And I know why she's done that, because she's saying, you know, they are more than their murder. They are women, which is fair enough. But I think just for the sake of picking them out to which one's which, it'd help people understand which one was which if you detailed their murder as well. And I don't think it'd take anything away from them detailing the murder, because if they hadn't have been murdered by Jack the Ripper, we wouldn't even be talking about them, would we? Let's be honest, we wouldn't even care. I think it'd be more poignant having found out, you know, from the cradle to the murder, all the things they've been through. It'd be more poignant to talk about how they was murdered so cruelly, and never given the opportunity to make things better in their lives, or make up with the people they'd fallen out with, and things like that. I just think that's missing from it. I think it should go into detail how they was killed. But that's my only criticism of the book. It is a good book, but don't be fooled into thinking it's you know, it rewrites history or anything like that. So yeah, very, very good book. That one, I think that's a good quote about it from The Guardian. Angry and important. She does write it like she's these poor women. But it is good. It is good. But, yeah. Good, but not revolutionary, is how I would describe it. And like I say, it will live on my bookshelf forever. I think it's a very good resource. I'm going to try and do a few more book reviews. It's just normally I don't read stuff that's, you know, high in people's heads like this. Normally I read more obscure stuff that not many people have heard of, but maybe that will be interesting, I don't know. So anyway, see you next time for a new video. Bye bye.